G'day, how are we? The new COD is out, and so far I've been having a lot of fun with it. The last time I had fun with a COD game was Zombies for Black Ops 2. Multiplayer for the game was okay, but the last time I had a lot of fun with multiplayer specifically for a COD game was all the way back in 2009 with Modern Warfare 2. So far, the new Modern Warfare is kind of reminding me of those times and giving me a similar impression, just like the original Modern Warfare did the first time I played it back in 2007, just in regards to how immersed I am in the firefights, how impactful they feel, and how goddamn loud it is. Of course, there are those who feel the need to complain because it's not the same as whichever previous COD they prefer, or they're not a fan of whatever changes have been implemented, such as the minimap changes. I wanted to take the time to highlight some of the actual issues with the game thus far, and point out what complaints don't really make much sense given what real problems need fixing at the moment. So I'll start with a complaint I see that I don't think needs to be addressed as badly as people think that it does. The common complaint I'm talking about is that time to kill is too low, meaning you die too quickly. So I didn't have anyone I could actually test this with at the time. None of my mates were online, so I just had to make do with a bot on regular difficulty and just take random shots at it to try to show you what I'm talking about when it comes to damage in the game. So first off, 2 shots to the chest and the bot is still alive. Followed straight after by 2 chest shots and then finally a headshot to kill the bot. So right off the bat, that's essentially 3 lethal shots required to even kill somebody in call. And then of course there's a single shot to the head and you can still survive that even after being shot by an AK-47. Now, I understand that this is core, and people probably say, well, if you want higher damage or you want to have people die quicker, play hardcore. I do. That's my primary game mode. I only ever play hardcore in these types of games. But the thing I'm pointing out is that people complain that you die too quickly. Well, you can essentially survive 2 chest shots or a single headshot and still be in for the fight. So it's not exactly a quick death unless you want to go the route of something like Apex Legends, where you can survive up to half a clip if you're wearing the right armor. I mean, you've even got a Desert Eagle with its 50 caliber ammo hitting someone in the chest and them surviving the shot still. I've even managed to capture an instance of me needing 2 shots at relatively close range to kill somebody with a shotgun of all things, which is kind of ridiculous. And then at medium to long range, roughly, you're looking at about 3 shots with a shotgun just to kill somebody, unless you're using the infamous 725, which I'll get into shortly. So the design philosophy the devs have gone for with this year's Call of Duty is to be that boots on the ground gameplay that people expected from the series back when COD 4 was popular, and mimic something closer to real life, or rather more closely to real life than previous CODs with its damage modeling. This year's COD isn't meant to be about firing half a clip to kill a single person, a la Apex Legends or Overwatch. I find the time to kill to be too high as it is, which is why I stick to hardcore, aka the better way to play a shooter. People complaining about their health are potentially going to be loud enough to implement change that will damage the fun of the game when there are better things we could be highlighting as a group. I would say that if you spend the time looking at the core health pool and complaining to increase it so you can survive more gunfights, kind of takes away from something more important, such as looking at potential guns that are too damaging in general, that need to be nerfed. If you just look at the health pool in general, you get a big health increase, while certain guns are still going to be more powerful than what they probably should, and you're just going to ruin the game as it was meant to be designed. It's meant to be this closer to real life gunfight and have a more, I guess, closer to hardcore aspect about it than previous Call of Duties, and then you've got the hardcore mode on top of that. Now, to start with the quote-unquote best guns in the game, we'll go with the dreaded M4 to begin with. Here is an M4 and Kilo, and I gave them 4 attachments each. Each attachment gives the same bonuses to recoil control. And there you go. The M4 has more recoil that needs controlling, but is apparently at the forefront of requests for weapons that need nerfing. One of my personal favourite weapons to use right now is the AK-47, so I decided to throw the same attachments on. They give the same recoil bonuses. And sure enough, it has a more manageable recoil pattern than the M4. So again, I'm not too sure why the M4 is at the forefront of this discussion and why people are screaming for nerfs when there are weapons that are just as good, if not better. As for the 725, well, the shots it pulls off that people complain about is what it would do in real life, but I can see the argument for why the range should be reduced a bit. Purely for balance reasons, you don't want certain guns outperforming the others. You got to keep some sort of balance to your multiplayer, but I don't see it as the end of the world like others do, as it's not always a guaranteed one-hit weapon, so hopefully it doesn't get nerfed into uselessness. The annoying thing about changes in these sorts of games is if a dev over-nerfs or under-buffs a weapon or ability. But overall, I find the 725 to be pretty fun. The downside to using that compared to another shotgun is, although it has increased range where you can get kills, it's only got 2 shells before it needs to reload. So obviously when you're in a close quarters situation, you're going to have more usability with a shotgun that has more shells in it before it needs to reload. Map design. Some maps just absolutely suck. Another issue is the lack of maps. Back in my day, that day being COD 4's heyday, I could look forward to 16 maps for all game modes, with a further 4 being DLC, and a Christmas version of Crash being available on PC at the time. This year we have 23 in total, a big number, but 2 of them are completely dedicated to the new 64-player Ground War, 7 for the new 2v2 gunfight mode, 4 being existing maps in the game but set during the night time for the new night vision game mode, and the remaining 10 for the rest of the game modes, so your team deathmatch, domination, etc. There's a lot of variety in terms of game modes these days, but not a lot of variety when it comes to maps for these modes. I'm not saying each game mode should have 15 maps minimum or anything like that, but the current maps we have could easily be converted into smaller versions for different modes, so Ground War maps into 10v10 or 6v6 matches, and those 6v6, 10v10 maps can then be turned into more 2v2 gunfight maps. Ground War itself just needs new maps entirely. As for the maps themselves, there are issues. Just to go over the maps for the general game modes, I can't pronounce that name. Palace is way too big for 6v6. Here's footage of me just jumping into a random bot match, and you can see how long it takes me to run not only to the middle of the map, but how long it takes me to actually see somebody in a 6v6 mode. Piccadilly sucks for anyone not spawning on the south side or seaside as it's called, due to lack of cover, lanes to move in and out of once you're in the A side, and also lack of cover on the A side for when people start spawn trapping you. And not to mention seaside just has better line of sight in general, they have more area to cover. Smokes are essential for St. Petrograd, unless you enjoy being sniped seconds after spawning during search and destroy and running to defend A site, which is more or less the only side that ever gets a bomb planted on it. Azir Cave has an issue where players will sometimes blend into the backgrounds, and all maps share the same issue with lighting screwing up your sight. Going from outside to inside is a gamble, as the rooms will usually be too dark to spot an enemy. If there's any interest, I could do a video going over each map individually and the issues I've found with them and kind of my thoughts on the map. Feel free to let me know. It's just unfortunate that in the regular game modes, so team deathmatch, objective based, blah blah blah, I enjoy about 5 maps in total. Ramazar, Hackney Yard, Gunrunner, Grazno Raid, and Arklov Peak. Whilst in COD 4, my absolute most enjoyable maps, not including DLC, numbered 9, those being Ambush, Backlot, Block, Bog, Crash is my all-time favourite, Crossfire, District, Overgrown, and Strike. But 50-player free-for-all on Shipment was good for a laugh. Very quickly on game modes, where's 10v10 hardcore? Hardcore night vision? Hardcore ground war, free-for-all, etc.? Hardcore gunfight would be wonderful. Such a great mode, but it's bogged down by Core's health pool. If we got past game modes such as gun game, infected, or whatever else, that would be a nice bonus. Spawning. Oh boy, is it broken. You'll either be cornered with no way out or live long enough to see yourself trapping people with a chopper gutter. I wish I had that footage, but Instant Replay decided not to work correctly when I managed to do that. Spawning needs to be reworked desperately, and that's not even mentioning spawning on top of a teammate just in time for a sniper to hit a collateral, whether that's normal modes or ground war, or sharing a spawn with an enemy. Netcode. Rather than harp on about this known issue, I recommend watching this video about netcode issues by Battle Nonsense, which I'll link in the description and also pinned comment. The video was made during the beta period, but packet loss and other net related issues are still rampant in the game currently, so it still applies largely. The following should be absolute priority in my eyes when it comes to things that need fixing. Glitches. Holy fuck, there are some fucked glitches. But first, can we get some actual use out of the patch notes section? That'd be real handy and save a lot of us having to open Reddit to find the notes. What else is this menu here for? Personally, I haven't had the game crash once, but there are reports of games crashing on both consoles as well as PC. My workmate gets constant DirectX errors, and here are some of the glitches I have footage of. Broken lobby screens on every boot just because I disabled the super loud intros. Menus lagging like crazy. Here I am actually moving my cursor around, but it's not actually registering until quite a few seconds later. Shaders constantly installing despite already installing many times prior. Random color glitches and the odd spread of texture that takes up my screen. FPS drops that seem to be tied to packet loss as far as I can tell. And the occurrence of said packet loss has only come up during matches where my ping sits no higher than 60 or 70. In a match where I sat at about 200 ping, it ran perfectly fine. There was some noticeable lag, but I didn't have the packet loss followed by the severe frame rate drops. Challenges not tracking properly, some challenges not even counting what they say they're counting. Anyone who had to plant or defuse 5 bombs will know that only the defusers counted for some reason. Plants didn't count for the mission, even if you planted the bomb and it successfully blew up, winning you the round. Weapons don't show the right level sometimes. Every game I get a single kill, the game announces that I have reached level 55. I've reached level 55 about 30 times so far. Single player cutscenes playing at single digit frames per second, and many more glitches others have highlighted and posted to the subreddit. So have you seen, or rather heard, it's not an extensive list of absolutely everything wrong with the game, nor is it everything that the game does right. It's hopefully a little bump to get people to realize how much more important certain issues are, and how little issue there is with other complaints. Reference M4 recoil, and other weapons having more manageable recoil. The subreddit has a lot of people complaining about rather mundane things when more vocal outcry should be given to the glitches, map design, and lacking hardcore modes. Sure, being killed by a claymore sucks and you hate the movement speed for some reason, but spawn trapping, visual glitches, and performance hitches are just a little more annoying at the moment, and I dare say a little more important to have fixed. Thanks for listening to my thoughts, and until the next video, have a good one.
We're not gonna live in there. Tear your skin, exposed and fresh, holding on to every breath. We are just waiting.